Gasper, did the Sox take a step forward this year? And if they did, what singular individual was most responsible?
Yes, they did take a step forward this year. And you have to give them credit for that, getting back to the playoffs, being a competitive team. I mean, they did still finish in third place in the American League East. I don't think we should lose sight of that. But they were back in the playoffs. And I'm heartened to find that my propaganda has worked on Murray with Cora. It's to me, it's clear. It's Cora. He maximized this team. It's interesting. I was listening. I had a doctor's appointment. I was listening to you guys on the way back, and some of the stuff that went wrong in this series, and you're dissecting it as you should. But zoom out, 30,000-foot view. Some of the names you're talking about of guys. Nate Eaton didn't do this. Nate Lowe didn't do this. Romy Gonzalez was 1 for 9. Romy Gonzalez batted cleanup the first 2 games of the series. Nick Sogard should have been in the lineup. Do you realize the names of guys if you had been mentioning those names in spring training, if a caller had called up and mentioned any of those names, you guys would have laughed them off the air back in spring training in February. So to me, it's clearly Cora. He maximized this roster, and I think you saw the limitations of this roster in this series, particularly in Game 3, in terms of, you talked about it, Romy Gonzalez. He's had an amazing year, but he's not the rangiest second baseman. I think there were some Ranger second basemen that would have gotten to the ground ball, and I think also would have been able to get out to the outfield fast enough to make that play that Rafaela couldn't. Nate Lowe was a great find off the scrap heap, and he's traditionally been a good defensive first baseman. That was a tough hop there. But again, when I look at this overall, Mazz, I have to strongly disagree with you on when you said Breslow. He had a good year. A lot of things went right for him, and he does deserve some credit. But when I look at it, I mean, he really did the bare minimum for this to be a playoff team. The bare minimum. I mean, what did they do at the trade deadline to address something that a lot of us were aware of, which was like there needs to be another pitcher between Crochet and Bayo and Giolito? That wasn't addressed. As I just said, Nate Lowe sort of fell in their lap. Where did they reinvest the money they saved from Devers and the team this year? How many pitches did Kyle Harrison, who was on the playoff roster, how many pitches did Kyle Harrison throw in this series against the Yankees?
0.
Yeah, as many as you and I did. What about Jordan Hicks? He also was watching on television, just like the rest of us. That's not to say that the deal's not going to work out in the long run. It could. It absolutely could. I like some of what I saw from Harrison, and I'll let you answer, Mazz. I'm just saying, for this year, I'm not really sure how you could put Breslow over Cora.
Okay, so I'll tell you how I put Breslow over Cora. And to me, now, you want to tell me that you don't think it's Breslow? Fine, I'll get to that in a minute. Don't tell me it's the manager. What's the biggest difference in this team from a year ago?
They made the playoffs.
Garrett Crochet.
Fair point.
They were 14 games over 500 when he started in the regular season. The rest of the time, they were 2 games over.
Can you refresh my memory, too? Who closed for you last year, and how were they?
I don't even remember who closed last year, Mike.
Was it Jansen?
Kenley Jansen.
Okay, yeah. I can't imagine he was better than Chapman.
No, not even close.
Yeah, but Chapman was not supposed to be the closer. I mean, that worked out great. Chapman was supposed to be a high-leverage, late-inning reliever. Their plan was Slayton as the closer. I mean, that's one of those ones they kind of, great signing, but they kind of fell into him. Let's not do revisionist history where they signed Chapman. They did not sign Chapman to be the closer.
Okay, fine. Whatever. What about Crochet? What are they?
That was a no-brainer deal. That's my answer to that.
Okay,
and
fine.
What did he really have to give up?
Did they make it? Did they make
made
the
it,
trade?
but
No, when you say it's a no-brainer trade, in other years, I don't think they would have made it. So did they make the trade?
Absolutely, they did. Great trade.
I'm just trying to gauge them on what actually happened. And without the biggest difference, without Garrett Crochet, Chris, are the same team. Cora's the same guy.
That's fair. That's a good point.
He's still bitching at the deadline about not getting help. He's still bitching in the first half about not having the roster. Crochet changed everything. And it's not a coincidence that they won the one game in the playoffs that he pitched. They lost the other 2.
But if it had been just Crochet, they don't make the playoffs. I mean, you're right. He was the biggest factor, but he's pitching once every 5 days, Mazz. They don't make the playoffs just on Crochet.
It comes close.
Cora had to get something out of those other guys. It got in huge holes in the lineup. He had to get something out of Bayo. Giolito ended up pitching well. So give credit to Andrew Bailey, Justin Willard, the pitching apparatus. They did good credit to Breslow there. let me ask you this question.
All
Just
I
to
know
go
is
back to
they were a 500 team when Crochet didn't pitch. That's all I'm telling you. They were
that's fair.
And they've been a 500 team for 4 or 5 years. So to me, it's about Crochet and the acquisition of Garrett Crochet. That changed their identity, and Red Sox history is littered with examples of how that singular ace pitcher can make you a playoff caliber team again. It won't win you a championship because God knows they went 86 years without it. So to win the championship, they're going to have to do more. But to me, it was not the manager.
Okay, that's fine. I would just say with Garrett Crochet on the roster, they were still a 500 team into June. So it turned around.
Season. Why are we only counting half the season?
Okay, but it turned around when the guys behind Crochet started to pitch well with Bayo and Giolito, which is to my point that Crochet alone was not enough. And I also would say, just in hindsight on the Crochet deal, again, it's worked out. Narvaez is great. I have no idea what Kyle Teal's going to do in his career. But if you look at it in hindsight, could you make an argument that you should have given up Campbell and not Kyle Teal?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. You could make that argument. No question about it. You were going to have to give up somebody to get him. I'm just telling you the ripple effect of an ace pitcher, and not just a number one or a guy who pitches at the front end. A guy who can go up against Max Fried in game 1 of the playoffs and outduel him and throw 99. The ripple effect of a guy like that is freaking gigantic. And it's also gigantic for Brian Bayo and for Lucas Giolito, who can hide behind him and just go 6 innings or 5 innings when they need to because the big guy's going to go 7. So it is a massive, massive thing. I think Cora got his head screwed on, Chris, in the middle of the season. He bought back in. Something happened. I don't know what, whether it was the Devers deal, they called him in and said, are you with us or are you against us or what? But somewhere in the middle, he got dialed in again. And that's good. He helps. Without him, without Crochet, they're not even coming close. With Cora or without him.
Yeah, I just don't think any old manager could mix and match with Abraham Toro, Romy Gonzalez, Nate Eaton, Nick Sogard, this list of guys that he had to mix and match with to get them ultimately to the playoffs. Crochet was a huge part of it. I'm not going to deny that. But again, I just look at it and think, Crochet, and I know what the team's record was when he pitched. I get it. But he's out there once every 5 days. And as good as he was, and I've seen teams before with really good pitchers who it's not a playoff team because the rest of the days they're not good. I just think Cora deserves more credit. The Crochet deal was great, no question about it. But Cora was the guy who wanted to bring in Bregman, as Murray said, and Cora was the guy that was left to try and mix and match and make this work. When there were, I hear what you're saying about Breslow, Mazz, and Crochet's great, but Crochet doesn't cover every roster hole they had. And they had a lot of them, and they got exposed in game 2 and 3 of the playoffs. Those other roster holes got exposed in my mind. And I certainly hope moving forward, I'll just say this, I hope moving forward they don't think, we figured it out because we made the playoffs. Because making the playoffs this year with this roster, that's not sustainable. They're still on the sustainability thing. They still have to figure it out. This was Crochet or no Crochet. This was a one-off. You're not going to make the playoffs again with this type of roster. I don't care if you have Garrett Crochet.
Does that include, and not that I don't want them to improve, of course, they have to go out and add. But if they have Meyer and Anthony, is this a playoff roster?
Next year?
Yes.
If that's all they do is just have those guys come back?
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah, they'll make the playoffs.
Yes,
again.
It is. Absolutely.
It's not.
Of course it is.
If it's the same starting pitching and it's just, first of all, Marcelo Meyer would have to make it through a whole year. I mean, I love the guy. I think he's a really great prospect and he could be a great big leaguer. But let's say Trevor Story opts out, right? And you let him go and Meyer's your everyday shortstop. So what's your answer at second base? You don't have one. And then what if Meyer gets hurt?
Okay,
he has not made it through a full season as a professional.
Okay, well, you just have, when you handicap a team going into a season, you got to just assume health. Because that...
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Well,
you don't assume health for guys that... Who assumes health for guys that have never been healthy and haven't made it through a season? That's a ridiculous statement.
So when you handicap... I don't know, Mazz, name a top-end pitcher who's had injury problems. You're not allowed to...
Tyler Glasnow.
Yeah, when you talk about the Tigers or you talk about the Dodgers, you're not allowed to talk about so-and-so being on the DL or so. That's silly. Of course, injuries factor in with everybody.
Okay, so I'll handicap the Memphis Grizzlies and assume Ja Morant will play 82 games. I'll do that.
I'm just saying. I mean, if we play that game, then I don't know who you get to handicap. I mean, because every team has injuries.
Chris,
Yeah, Al Horford will play every back-to-back this year for the Golden State Warriors.
Then,
I'll predict 60 wins for them.
Then
he hasn't played back-to-backs in 3 years. He'll play every back-to-back. Let's evaluate the team
let's not evaluate the Warriors because we don't know about Al Horford. I think that's silly.
Chris, Crochet makes them a playoff team. But making the playoffs is not that tough. It's not.
That's true. That is true.
It took 87 wins for Pete's sake.
I've seen it too many times where, and look, I know there are plenty of teams that have a good pitcher that suck. This roster doesn't completely suck. Now, they were banged up at the end of the year, but Abreu is a major league player who's going to hit 25 home runs and knock in 85, 90 runs. Rafaela is a bottom of the order bat who's inconsistent, but he is a major league player. Bregman was a big part of it too. And if you want to tell me that it didn't take much for Breslow to negotiate those deals, that someone else was pulling the strings, whether it was Theo or ownership's willingness to finally, spit up some money and commit to a couple of guys, then that's all fine. I'm reluctant to give Breslow too much credit either. So, but I had to pick one person based on the question. I will pick the acquisition of Garrett Crochet as the single biggest move that affected their fortunes.
And I purposely did this just to hear Gasper cape up for Alex Cora.
Sure.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's give the people what they want and what.
Of course.
Let's just do the thing.
No
let's
problem.
Just do the thing.
Mazz is right, though. I mean, he was disconnected and then he re-engaged. There's no question about that. But when he re-engaged, I mean, I just think he made a big difference. And I know we got to go to break. I'll just say, Mazz, if you're going to pick your one person and it's so high on Crochet, why isn't it Crochet instead of Breslow?
Because he knows what I was doing there with the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
And
fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, I would have picked Crochet, but how did he get here? And they acquired him.
We were supposed to argue about Alex Cora this segment. That's the whole
good bitchy Gasper segment.
That's all we were doing.